So our other topic to talk about, I mean, Emerald Wonders is nice, but Phlox Part 2 is back. Same heroic milestones as last time, same expensive, him being more expensive than previous month's officers by a considerable amount. I think we discovered it was, last month my top milestone was just over 10 million. Now it's 13.5 million. So 35% increase across the board there for all of the milestones. In terms of unlocking him, how many do I need? Probably a bunch still. Of course, it won't click on the stupid box to show me. That's his abilities. Hey, there we go. So I'm halfway to unlocking him. So I'd have to actually finish this to get 35 out of here, and then hope to get the remaining 15 out of the SLB, which means finishing in the top 25. And I'm gonna guess the top 25 currently is actually even above my top milestone. So it means I'm now, not only am I finishing my heroic, but I'm spending above and beyond that heroic milestone in order to unlock Phlox. And the unfortunate nature of Phlox is that his ability is in a bit of a flux right now. I'm so proud of myself for that. It just came to me right now. His primary ability here, start a combat against players, reducing opponents' critical hit chance by 45%, which then ranks up. It's only for 8 rounds. He's basically the exact opposite of what Honor Guard Warp starts out at, except for the fact that he currently is not being limited to only against players. He's working against everybody. So when you're fighting hostiles, when you're fighting armadas, he will significantly lower their critical hit chance for the first 8 rounds, which is very valuable when fighting some of these new silent enemies and Zindi hostiles and stuff, because they do get a decent amount of crits. The silent enemies have a 100% chance for criticals for the first 4 rounds of the fight. Guaranteed. Every shot is a critical for the first 4 rounds. Well, Phlox basically cuts that in half, so now it's 55%. They might miss a few times. Some people would argue that, even though they're hitting you for less damage, the fight is still taking longer with him in the officer slot as compared to somebody else you might have there, like Data or Janeway or somebody. Or Trip Tucker or whatever, who's given synergy, maybe. Yeah. Most likely, he's taken somebody else's spot who's going to lower your damage output. So now the fight's taking longer, so you end up in the long run still taking the same or more damage. The only potential outcome would be as if you were punching down a little bit. But with the silent enemies, that's not always the case of something you can do. If you happen to be normally hitting the higher level hostile in your system, because you can kill them pretty regularly and like the additional loot, if you swapped somebody out who's letting you do that, put Phlox in, and then you're hitting, the lower end of the hostile in your target system, maybe you get more kills over the length of your hull, because you're still having enough damage output to kill them fast, because there's a pretty big difference between the low hostile and the high hostile in each system. So if I have to kill 55s to 59s for mine. So if I were in this system and I were regularly killing the 55 level hostiles, I'm sorry, I was regularly killing the 50, it says 57, but I feel like it's 59s. But if I'm killing the higher level hostile, whatever it is, pretty regularly, and I'm getting decent loots off of it, and I'm like, you know what, let me switch Phlox in and let me just go down and kill the 55s instead. Can I kill more in a trip per token, get more loot and materials? Maybe. But that would be something that would actually require unlocking him and testing him for. And again, because we don't know if his ability is going to stay that way, because they haven't announced anything. They announced that they know he's not working as intended, but they haven't announced what they're going to do about it. Are they going to fix him? Or are they not going to fix him? And if you're a player and you're thinking about spending for an event, you'd kind of like to know which way his ability is going to go. Because if you spend for it to get him to unlock him, because he's going to help you with your silent hostiles, and then next week in the patch, they fix him and make him only work against players again, well, now he's less valuable, and you're going to feel bad about spending some of those materials to upgrade him, or to unlock him, or to upgrade him. If they say, hey, we're going to leave him as is and he's going to work on everything, players might be more excited and more encouraged to go about trying to source him. They might see him as more valuable. It might be like, okay, but when you're stuck in this, no man's land of will they, won't they, that uncertainty is probably going to make more players hesitant to take extra steps to try to acquire him. And this, again, would sort of come back to what we've been saying for years now, which is, failure to communicate what your objectives and intentions are with anything that you put out into the game. So, Larotka, you thought your milestone stayed the same from last month? We looked at the ones on stfc.space. There's a significant increase in this event. I didn't check all the level brackets, so maybe yours is the same. Mine went up quite a bit on my accounts. It was a pretty sizable increase. GP, you unlocked him this morning. Congrats. Have you taken advantage of his ability the way it is right now? Phlox capacitor. Oh, that's cute. I like that too. For Phlox sakes. That's nice. That's another good pun. We like puns. Denver says that 100% crit chance for Silent is for the first 4 rounds only. That's true. Phlox Tier 1 halves that. Yep. After round 4, he completely removes their crit chance only through 5 through 8. But yes, I do see your point there. So then obviously their ability that gives them additional crit damage is also not applying because they have no crit chance from rounds 5 through 8. They're just using their base crit value, which as we can see here is not that good. Critical chance is only 10%. So rounds 1 through 4, their ship ability here is giving them a 100% crit chance. Phlox is going to cut that in half. Basically, we'll call it half. It's 45-55. Rounds 5 through 8, they go back to their default crit chance, which is only 10%, which is now going to be 0. So if you can kill them somewhere in there, you're in pretty good shape. If you don't kill them by then, when you get to round 9, well, now Phlox isn't working at all. His ability's turned off, so they go back to their 10% standard crit chance. But now you've gone through 9 rounds of this, so now they've got over a 3,000% damage increase. But again, it's only a 10% crit chance after that. So maybe if you get him in there and you kill stuff in the right little window, like how's this fight going? This fight went 7 rounds. So if I had Phlox here, maybe instead of Lorca, the fight probably goes 9 rounds, maybe even instead of the Doctor, depending on if I need, if my Torres was higher and I didn't need Lorca there, and I could put, Torres below deck and still get the hull breach pretty consistently, and then I could put Phlox there, so now I'm not taking as much crit damage, because these are basically, some of these are going to be regular hits instead of critical hits. And if we go down and see like what in round 5 here, the regular hits are only, 1,900,000 as opposed to 3 or 4 million. Or by the time you get to the end of round 5 and 6, we're talking about, 12 and 13 million. If these aren't criticals and these are just 900K hits, well, it's a lot less damage than I am taking. Although most of it because of Janeway's getting redirected into the shields. But still, and then we get to round 5 and 6, and now their crit chance is back down to their normal 10%. And as you can see here, they're not really critting a whole lot. One out of basically 10, 12 shots was a critical. Now it's a huge critical because the damage multiplier keeps going. But in this case, this wouldn't have happened. Phlox would have prevented this from happening until the end of round 8. So if I had, other options for crewing, if B'Elanna was a little better, or if I just wanted to do more, damage and take, say the doctor out or something like that and not have as much mitigation. If I had more officer slots below deck and I could just put a 4th officer down there, whatever the case is, right? Other different scenarios. Phlox would have some value. He would make some of this stuff significantly better. No doubt about that. So, Valiance, thank you for the follow. Nuts, you could unlock him if we had a 3rd SMS coming up. Not sure exactly what next weekend's event is going to be. It might be another cross-server leaderboard. It might have different officers in it. Maybe it'll have both Phlox and Hoshi and have different milestones. We'll just sort of have to wait and see on that one. That's also true. There are other officer shards for him available in the Battle Pass. Thanks for pointing that out, Bel Air. So if you get, there's 4 at the top here. If you bought the Battle Pass, there's 12 more down at the bottom. And I don't think there's any in the overflow. Nope, no officer shards in the overflow. Benji unlocked him last week at level 25. Then you used him to win the hostile grind because he has a multiplier. Well, nice. Congrats on that. Brett, you hope you can kill those silent hostiles by the end of round 8. Otherwise, you might have bigger problems. And, well, that also comes down to, again, depending on where you are in your level range, right? For a lot of players, the fights are going longer because, they're having, if you're in one of those particular level brackets, your Ops 45, well, your hostiles require you to go here and to kill the 46s, which are a lot harder to do, especially if you're using a 42 ship, or if you skipped a 42 and you're just using like specialty ships, Monavine, Talios, Defiant, whatever the case is there, you're already struggling to kill these things here. Now, if you want to take some of your damage officer spots away to try to just lower their damage output with Phlox, that fight's going to go longer. Eventually you'll get to, say, 46, and then you'll get your 46 rare and get that ship upgraded enough to where this becomes more manageable. Then Phlox might come back on the table if his ability still works by then. Did they say they're going to cancel the 3rd week of the Phlox SMS? They never put it on the calendar this month. Last month they put it on the calendar, canceled it, and didn't tell anybody. Everybody got their pitchforks out, yelled and screamed, and said, what the heck is this? This month, they only put the first 2 weekends on the calendar. They didn't put an event for the 3rd weekend. Which means that, again, they're going to do whatever they want. They could just run the Phlox event again for the 3rd weekend, or they could do something different. Going to kind of depend, what the madman at the wheel wants to do at that time. Nope. Valiance, I don't know. I missed something there, I guess. So, okay. Nuts asking if Phlox works on freebooters and stuff like that. Well, I mean, he's going to lower their crit chance, but I don't know that freebooters typically crit a lot, do a lot of crit damage. Why scope the racist on Ops 55 and 55 has to hit G5, the rare zone? Because that's where they drew the same thing with 45, right? They drew their level lines inconsistently to match up with ship types because they want people who are on the bubble to push harder to get to that next little zone. They could have made it 41 because they don't want 46s. They could have made 41 through 45 hit here and 46 and up hit in this system, but they didn't. They drew the line a little lower because, well, one, that's where they copy paste all their lines from. You know, well, no, because usually the SLBs and stuff like that are 41 through 45, so those brackets would have been the same. So it clearly was, I won't say clearly, but it most likely was an attempt to get people who are 45, 49, 50, 55, whatever the case is, 52, uh, to keep pushing harder to move to that next level bracket, ship bracket, get that next ship, spend the materials on that next ship, spend the money to buy the materials for that next ship. Or feel like you're missing out on this particular loop and the new content, which, I think you have to be okay with because, I mean, these temporal artifacts, there's some nice stuff in here, but they're going to take a while to source anyway. That's the other thing I keep wanting to forget. I haven't been pulling the shards for these things. Is there like an event coming up for that, or was it only at the beginning of the month? What's up, Gan? Phlox works on hostiles? Currently, yes, he does. He says in his tooltip, players, but he is currently not working the way he is supposed to, and he does work on hostiles. He does not work on armadas, but he does work against hostiles currently. They have announced that they are aware of it, and they have not announced whether they're going to leave him like that or whether they're going to fix him, which is, you know, very frustrating for players who might be more interested in acquiring him depending on which way his ability is going to work. So, is Phlox good for Cardassian armadas? I don't think he works on armadas. I haven't tried him yet, but I don't think he works on armadas. I think it's only hostiles and players.